Richard, thanks for coming on for a chat today. How's it going in Queensland?
Mate, pleasure. Things are great. Another beautiful day in paradise. Can't complain up here. Obviously, we've been pretty lucky with the COVID situation. We're all fairly normal, so to speak.
Mm.
But yeah, everything's great.
Yeah, I've kind of speaking to a few Queenslanders over the last couple of weeks, and yeah, life is very, very normal. There's no pandemic by the sounds of it, but yeah, life just goes on in Queensland.
It really does. Yeah, I mean, it's a little different from the golf perspective with tournaments and the players we work with not being able to travel too much. But
Mm.
we're doing the best with what we can at the moment.
Yeah, I think that's all we can do. Just do the best we can. And it was funny. I was watching the Origin the other night, and it's weird
Mhm.
to see so many people right next to each other, especially being in Victoria. It just blows my mind.
Yeah, like I think that was the largest sporting event or largest crowd I think that in the world so far since during the COVID with 50,000. Yeah, it feels day to day is pretty normal. Like it's we're lucky. We're the lucky ones at the moment.
Yeah, we're definitely lucky to be in Australia. We're kind of setting the bar high for how to handle this pandemic. But yeah, it's I feel very blessed to be in Australia for sure. I'd like to start on a few topics, but the first topic on mind is your journey to KDV Sport. That's something you've really built up from scratch, and it's something you're very proud of. I'd love to hear your journey from, kind of just getting into the PGA professional to where you are now.
Yeah, like we are definitely very proud of this. What we've done here, it's the facility's fantastic. It caters for everyone. We target, well, our objective is to produce world class athletes. So there's no secret behind that. We are definitely focused in that high performance space. Having said that, we wanted to, our vision of it back in 2012 when we first started looking at this facility was to be open to everyone, but to be able to cater for everyone from the general public to kids, to people with disabilities, to everyone in between, and I feel like we've done that pretty well. And I guess a big area of our focus is the holistic development, being able to develop the athlete first and the golfer second.
Mm.
So really working through their physical capabilities and through our junior academies, and then eventually into our high performance space where we move through everything from your stats keeping, tournament planning, preparation for travel, the whole lot. The facility is fantastic. We've got the gym, the hotel on site now. So Elite Gold Coast is the name of the hotel that just opened up. It actually opened up pre-COVID. Then we had the Richmond football team staying here over the AFL bubble. We're back open to getting athletes back in. So hopefully when travel sort of moves on again, we can get our international players back in. But yeah, the facility is awesome. There's nothing really quite like it, and yeah, we feel like it caters for everybody.
Yeah, for sure. That, definitely, as you're saying, caters for everyone, and you kind of get them from the beginning all the way through to the elite athlete. I guess one thing to that, is this based off stuff you've seen in the US or something you've seen around the world, and you've kind of put all the pieces into place. You've kind of taken one thing from another thing that you thought that's worked, or how did you come to like putting the gym, the chipping area,
Yeah.
all that stuff together?
Yeah, well, I guess when I was I'm from New Zealand, coaching over there, moved to the Gold Coast and coached at Royal Pines for 5 years, and I guess in a very traditional environment of just coaching on the range and outsourcing several people for as service providers.
Hmm.
And then given the opportunity to travel around the world, coaching, you get to see different facilities, the likes of the IMG Academy in the US and several different academies through the US and through Europe and Asia as well. They do a pretty good job with, and trying to house everything in the same place is definitely a massive asset in respects to the athlete's time that they have available. I mean, one of our most precious commodity is time, and then obviously athlete well-being and getting the most out of what they can do. So having the vision and the support from the ownership to be able to try to get everything on site where the athlete can come in, they can get their workout done, they can eat here, they can, if necessary, they've got physios can come in on site. There's room. The sports psychs can come in on site. So everybody, the whole team is around the athlete at all times.
Mm-hmm.
And we felt that was pretty important from a junior level all the way through to our tour players. So to get them ready for what they're going to be prepared for on the road. So yeah, I guess taking parts from what we saw from my own perspective, traveling around coaching and being on the road and just going and just taking little bits and pieces and luckily, and I guess fortunate enough having the backing of our ownership to be able to put this all together is it's been brilliant.
Yeah, that's something definitely to be proud of. 8 years on now, it's kind of just,
yeah.
And I see a lot of stuff on social media. You got the undercover stuff. You don't have to worry about the sun. I think that's a big thing, especially being in Queensland. You guys get a lot of the sun. Probably a little different in Victoria, where you probably get to deal with a bit more rain and stuff like that. So yeah, I've always wondered this. So I can hear the New Zealand accent. Where in New Zealand are you from? Where did it start there?
Yeah, I'm from Nelson, a place called Nelson, top of the South Island,
Yep.
in the, Nelson Bays region. Born and bred there, grew up there, played all my golf there, all my amateur golf, turned pro back in 2000 and, I want to say 2003, 2003. Finished my PGA apprenticeship in 2005. Hung around there for 2 years or a year and a half and realized that it's a pretty small town where I'm from. It's about 100,000 people, give or take. And golf was a great culture, but ultimately just with where I was really heavily invested in wanting to be a coach by that stage, I worked that out pretty early on. I mean, like most PGA trainees went in with that passion of playing and out of the amateur background of playing. Really got stuck into my coaching and worked out that to develop my coaching, I needed to go abroad. And I'd planned on moving, coming to the Gold Coast for 6 months and moving on and maybe going over to the US and Canada to actually take a summer job over there. I had a potential job lined up, and fortunate enough, I got offered a job at Royal Pines here on the Gold Coast, and in the early when I moved over here, and mate, I've never left. So, and it's been the best thing I've done.
Yeah, it's it's cool to hear your journey to where you are now. That's kind of cool. I see a few awards behind you. If anyone's watching on YouTube, and you got 3 awards up there. Coach of the Year. That's kind of something on the top of the list. What's the highest accolade you're kind of aiming for? Is it you're not driven by stuff like that, or just trying to be the best person you are?
Yeah, I'm not driven at all by those accolades, but what I'm driven for is the player's success, to be honest. That's the biggest kick. I've always said that. I get no bit of joy into seeing players develop, and, when they get tournament wins or whatever it may be, whatever their objectives are, they're setting out, whether it be college wins or college scholarships or QAS scholarships, whatever it may be, being involved with the Golf Australia program. That's the stuff that I get the kick out of. And so to see the players do well there, that's awesome. And if I get the accolades that go along with it, then so be it. But my interest is in the athlete.
Yeah, sweet.
First and foremost.
Yeah, that's really sweet. And like you're talking about those elite athletes, like kind of going into those scholarships and winning events and being a part of that team and all that stuff. Few traits you've noticed over the years of those high performers, people winning New Zealand Opens and all that stuff. What's stuff you've kind of boiled it down to?
They're mentally tough, man. They're strong-minded, hard workers, self-sufficient. They're leaders. They take on challenges, and they don't follow others. So those personality traits, their intensity levels are really strong. Their ability to focus under pressure, deal with their emotions really well. I mean, there's those high performance traits, they shine through. And with I guess my experience of seeing that at that high level, that's what we try to get through into our junior academy as well. So we try to train those on a weekly basis with the players, make them uncomfortable, get them dealing with those situations, and really taking ownership of their development. and understanding that, we can guide them down the pathway of what we see as a successful approach, but ultimately it's going to be their self-sufficiency to get themselves out of bed in the morning, create those great habits, and consistently just stick to their process of improvement. So
Mm.
you see that across the board with the guys and girls that are doing really well.
Mm.
There's no secret to that, and some players are willing to take it on, and some aren't, and that's a personal choice and journey.
Yeah, it's definitely you see moving through the ranks that it's not for everyone. This lifestyle, this self-sufficiency, you've got to be your own leader. You got to just do your own thing. You touched on about personality traits, and you trying to build that up through the through the juniors and all that stuff. But how do you deal with introverted and extroverted? People are just kids are naturally like that, and they kind of go through and they're like that, and being these brave individuals and going into a high level sport is not for everyone, as I said before. But personally myself, I'm quite introverted, but taking the leap and going into that, how are you kind of nurturing those personality traits at a young age?
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to just make sure they're the best versions of themselves, really, and not trying to change the individual in any way whatsoever, and just opening their sort of approaching their development with a strong growth minded outlook to what they're doing, and getting them open to different ideas and different ways of doing things, and potentially just exposing themselves to situations whereby whether they're introverts or extroverts, and getting them to where are they comfortable, where are they uncomfortable in training and in competition, and just opening discussions around how we can improve those areas, and then designing training techniques, whether it be through challenges, in a training environment, or getting to do stuff just away from golf, whether it be just getting comfortable and speaking to other people, or just general human skills, just helping them develop those skills even through school and study, and just trying to bring the best of what we can out of them, and not change them, just make them the best versions of who they are.
Yeah, absolutely. You touched on a couple of times about making like uncomfortable situations for the athletes at a young age and get them more comfortable in those situations, because obviously when you're under the pump trying to make the cut or win an event, they definitely present themselves. How are you recreating those situations in an everyday kind of training perspective?
Yeah. Well, I look at training in two ways. So if I ever play a one-on-one at a facility, like that's where we can do a lot of our, if you want to call it, technical development. There's a space where we can do that. It's a safe environment, in the sense of like when I say safe, like they can, they don't feel afraid to make mistakes, and they invest in that time one-on-one. But then I'm a big believer in a group orientated environment to get the more the human skills exposed. So when we get players together in a group or a team environment, that's where I'll definitely be more task-based training, in the sense of give them a task to complete, whether it be in reps or time or competitive against other players. Typically make the skill harder than what it would probably be in competition in respects to difficulty level, and try to get them to understand their expectation levels with that as well. Getting the players hitting shots in front of each other, or getting them to put a score on a scorecard in training, which players just simply don't do. So when in a group environment, get them competing against each other one-on-one, get them doing their skill acquisition a little bit more, and trying to bridge the gap between expectation and reality in a group environment.
Yeah, definitely training above what playing is like is huge. Something I've tried to incorporate over the years. It feels like playing's the easy part. That's kind of how I've boiled it down to in a summarize of that. But yeah, that's cool. That whole group based stuff. I always try to remember like interstate series, amateur days.
Yeah.
you kind of get around, you do a putting drill and everyone's kind of watching on the line. It matters. I think as you kind of progress into professional golf, you're by yourself. It's cool that you've set up a facility where, you've got that interaction between all levels of golf for sure.
Absolutely, yeah, and getting some of the tour players or the older or the senior HP players to somewhat give some insights into our junior high performance as well is great. So trying to get that ethos and that culture filtering the whole way down the line is definitely something that we'd look to do. And I think we're moving them in the right direction. That we're starting to get some great results from the young kids, and man, they're good players at a young age now. So they're playing beyond their years, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Quickly on mentors and stuff that's kind of helped you round your philosophies and stuff like that. Any mentors, books, videos that have motivated you to this point?
I guess there's lots. I mean, I'm a golf nerd. I just love reading literature and watching videos, and the more I can learn about anything, the better. I think like every day I'm either researching or looking at something. In terms of people I look up to, I mean, there's coaches that I look up to. I think Sean Foley is he stands out, right? I guess I look at coaches that somewhat relate really well to their students, but also have definitely a deep knowledge of golf biomechanics as well. So the likes of him, Chris Como, locally, like I really look up to Slug at Grant Field up at Pelican. I work closely with him through QAS as well. A lot of respect for what he does and what he's done with Cam and the young guys and girls he works with. And then back home, I guess the coaches I grew up with as well. So there's plenty of people that have had influence. But again, like it comes back to what you said earlier. I think it comes more from within as well. I think you either want it or you don't in this industry, whether it be a player or a coach. So as much as you can have positive influences around you, I think ultimately your own development hangs on your own passion for wanting to get better and not trying to somewhat follow others. And if you're a player or a coach and not being afraid to put yourself out there and make mistakes and learn from them, and the more you do that, the better. So I'd say, I read a lot, I watch a lot, I listen a lot, and then somewhat try to come to my own conclusions with essentially what can assist the players I work with in the most effective way.
It's like an educated decision you've come to after everyday learning. That's kind of every day you're learning something new, and you kind of get to you're evolving every day. That's kind of how I try to do it, and I guess coaching is very similar to that. And it's you touched on before about Cam Smith and Grant Field tied for second last week at the Masters.
Unreal.
That's unreal, and it just he set what was it the lowest score ever for a person to come second and not win. So crazy feat.
I believe so. Yeah, I mean, that achievement in the Masters is crazy. What Cam's done on tour is just outstanding. So, and what he's doing for Australian golf and how he supports Australian golf is it's really something to be proud of from his perspective. Yeah, and how he's been brought up.
Yeah, it's wicked. To played a lot of golf with Cam as an amateur, and just to see him succeed at such a high level is just inspiring and something to kind of keep working towards, because he's a great bloke underneath it all, and he's definitely supporting Australian golf to the highest point. We had a player meeting yesterday with about all the events and all that stuff. Interesting meeting. Very they're probably doing the best they can with all the announcements. It's kind of sit on the back fence and have a bit of a watch and think, well, they are providing some opportunities in February, March. It's going to be a hot little streak there. You've got a few players.
I see down in Victoria.
Yeah, it'll be four hot weeks in Vic, playing at a couple of different courses twice. And then it goes up to New South Wales. I think Queensland pops in there. But it's a hot 10 weeks. How are you keeping the players focused for that little run. And, with all these announcements kind of going on, I guess you guys are a little bit sheltered in Queensland, not really obviously in Victoria. I'm
Yeah,
just happy to be playing golf, but it's going to be a hot little schedule in February, March.
it is. I think you've had Brett Rankin and Tim Hart on
Yeah.
on your podcast the last few weeks, and I think both of those guys who I coach, they've voiced their opinion on their own mental health and opened those discussions up, and it's something that those guys should be ultimately pretty proud of, like opening those discussions up, because they're true honest discussions that need to be had amongst the guys. And some of them have really struggled, and that's no secret, like that, with no tournaments being on, so their ability to get motivated to get out and practice and prepare has been difficult. And I think in the early stages of COVID, it was okay, we'll ride it out and we'll stay ready. And then as it's gone on, I think it's been a little more tough on the guys. So hey, look, fingers crossed with these tournaments coming up, and that our travel restrictions still lift. Ultimately, as you are, Brady, like golf tour players at heart are great competitors, right? You wouldn't be in the position that you are unless you were deep down a great competitor. So with those personalities, you get yourself to that level, you've got that within you. So all we basically, once those tournaments come on the schedule, I'm sure those guys are going to be able to have some of those as you said, those personality traits of like self-sufficiency and discipline to get themselves up and ready and ready to roll. I mean, I know they're itching to get a good schedule on, and I know the PGA or the tour is doing their best they possibly can with a really, really crappy situation. So a few of the guys I coach who play up in Asia, I think they're hanging out to wait and see what's going on up there. On the amateur front, I think those guys have got a pretty full-on schedule as well coming into early next year, with all the New South events on, and I know the Aussie Amateurs still going to be going ahead. And so, yeah, I mean, 2021, fingers crossed, could be a really positive year with events. And so, yeah, let's hope that they can get ready. But I don't think I have a problem making sure they get themselves up and ready for these events.
Yeah, it's funny. I'd obviously just been waiting. I think a lot of us had just been waiting, and once they posted events, it was kind of, you just fix your gaze to like this holy moment. It feels like a Super Bowl. It's like all these events are on the schedule, and you think, all right, perfect. I'm gonna put a bit of a plan into place. I think I've worked it out. It was like 56 days to the first first round. What am I going to do to get myself ready? I've just been doing lockdown workouts and all that stuff. So actively went to the chipping green the other day and trying to find a short game, and just, I don't know, it kind of, as you were saying before, that whole competitive nature. It's like, all right, I need to be ready. I'm at this level right now. I need to be at this by the time I tee it up on Thursday. I know that my first event, I may be a bit rusty. If I can kind of if I can get enough intensity in practice,
that's it.
That's the key to hit the ground running round one. I think some people struggle with that, but I'm definitely a better 6 week player in a row. Normally the 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks I play a lot better. Any insight on how to hit the ground running on Thursday, round one of the first event back in Victoria?
I think you just hit the nail on the head. That key word of intensity is huge, right? And I think you're spot on with that's the hardest thing to bring to training. And if you can work out a way of elevating your training intensity in terms of getting ready for that event, then that's going to be the only way you can really somewhat prepare yourself, right? So your skill level and your ability to play golf is not going to be the issue. It's going to be how you deal with, mentally and I guess physiology, of how you deal with things on the golf course when instances come up. That'll be what you'll find is the unfamiliar aspect, which, ultimately we don't find that in training on a daily basis. So get out with some of the other guys, play for cash, and
absolutely,
just get amongst it.
Just try emulate it. Really make it matter. I think that's. We try to play big Tuesday games here. We'll go down to Moona. We got the option to go down and play the Legends.
Yeah,
We'll try go
good.
and play Rosebud. We'll probably
Yeah,
wander out to your lawn and play a money game and just it. Obviously, these Tuesday games get pretty heated because you don't want to lose to your mates,
awesome.
especially. So yeah, that intensity for sure. Kind of going back to you were talking about Timmy and Brett, kind of opening up about mental well-being of themselves and how difficult this time has been. I think that's important, having that self-awareness. And there's no really any stigma behind it. If you are battling, it's fine.
Man.
And you just need to reach out. People are there to help you. I've definitely noticed that in lockdown that every day is different. If you're having an off day, that's okay. Just try to do one thing a day. Is that something, obviously you've got that at KDV Sport with, coaching and people that come in and help with that. Is that something you push people out externally to like psychologists or sports people like that? What's your take?
Yeah, look, I guess if it's outside of my realm of expertise, then definitely would refer to a clinical sports psych or a clinical psych. But ultimately, you'd know with your coaches over the years, and I know with the players I work with, coaching is all about relationships, and the swing work or the short game work, that's ultimately the easy stuff. But 99% of your time at especially the high performance level is just being there for the players. Almost it's on a friendship level more than anything else as well. So definitely a lot of our conversations are with the guys and girls is surrounding that good that positive mental outlook to what's going on, and getting them again, just like trying to recreate good habits and how they treat themselves, and write their own narrative of themselves being really positive and forward thinking. And so yeah, I mean, I'd feel like I'm definitely there for the guys and girls that I work with on a sort of 24/7 basis, to be honest. And then that they can always reach me, and I can always reach them, and I encourage that. So yeah, that mental well-being and staying happy is of a huge priority.
I think with golf being such an individual sport, at times we don't have the luxury to say like a rugby team or a footy team. If you are struggling, you've got your mate right next to you. You're playing with 20 other guys, and you can really. It's a little bit easier to kind of like lie on someone's shoulder if you are struggling. It's the speaking up that needs to, everyone needs to feel okay with, for sure.
Yeah, and that's just getting the longer you spend with your coach or your player, the better you build that relationship up. And we have some of the conversations I have with people I work with go so far beyond golf, and but on the same token have such a massive impact on their performance in tournaments. So yeah, being able to open up and not be afraid to tell people how you're feeling is critical.
Yeah, that's very, very well said, for sure. Coaching philosophies, we got to go there. What is something you'd like to see in a player? What are you more of a position frame? What's the deal there?
Yeah, philosophy wise, I like to see an athletic movement in a golf swing. So I've got some, I guess, dynamic balance and postural preferences that I like to see it addressed, that I get players into. So dynamically really ready to move, getting them understanding how the function of the body in terms of its rotation, its tilt patterns, how that influences how the arm structure and I guess the swing plane move, and then ultimately what we do at the grip end of the golf club as well, force and torque you apply to the grip, which influences the club face. So philosophy wise, I try to keep, I use a lot of biomechanics. I use 3D, TrackMan for ball flight, etc. So hack motion for wrist movement. So I like to measure everything and get the players my philosophy is get the players to understand their own golf swing and own their own golf
Hmm.
swing. So if they see a certain ball flight, I need them to understand what created that ball flight. So, you know, just even simple stuff,
Mm.
club face delivery, path delivery, tack angle, loft, just get them understanding some fundamental stuff of what causes the ball flight to do what it does. And then being able to somewhat reverse out of that and go, okay, well, what influenced that outcome? So, hey, that ball leaked a little right. What did I do in my golf swing that maybe that I'm working on that influences that? So philosophy wise, yes, strong in biomechanics, repeatable club delivery, and dynamically in balance. And
Mm.
yeah, so basically balance and movement.
Yeah, beautifully said. I think we were talking about before about self-efficiency. You're as a coach and the player relationship goes, it's building that foundation over the first couple of years on why it does what it does, the ball flight, why that happened, because your pattern is this, and that. I think that's so important. And at the end of it, it's up to the student to relay that to the coach.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the more you can own your own outcome, the better, right? You can problem solve out there and
Mm,
tournament play. I think the world class players, their one skill that they do better than anybody else is just adaptability.
mm,
So the ability to, if okay, hey, I'm not at my best today. Let's understand what the golf ball's doing, adapt to what it's doing, play with that for the day. Then I can go back to the range, work on it. Thursday evening, be ready for Friday. I think that's what the best players have the ability to do, and the only way you can really do that is if you own your own game and you understand what's causing what the causation is of whatever's going on.
that's so spot on. I believe that truly. That resonates with me a lot. And just moving forward with your swing and all that stuff, we kind of roll into chipping and putting. Obviously, in
Yeah,
Queensland,
yeah,
grain is an issue there. I think every time I've been up there, well, this is pre when I was living in the US. I really in Texas, I figured out how to play on it just because there's so many chips you duff, and you just think, well, I need to figure out how to get the thing on the green. So, quick tip. Let's not go quick tips. Let's go medium form of how to get the guy to hit it off grain. I guess into the grain chips.
yeah. Well, I mean, contact is premium, right? So when working on your chipping with your club delivery, I mean, it's dictated a lot by, I guess, attack angle, where the low point of the arc is.
Hmm.
Um, Trying to get them to blend in the understanding of loft delivery with the way the body pivots as well. So you often see players when they're playing, like amateur golfers, when they're playing into the grain, um, they get they lean the shaft down, they lose all the bounce, and ultimately just dig the golf club. So trying to get the delivery, depending on the exact lie, but trying to get the delivery relatively shallow, yet still keep the body moving to support the energy through the strike if the grain does interact and have some causation or problem. Um, but yeah, the blend of the club head releasing and being a little shallower, and the body pivoting and trying to get some extension through the body, is pretty important. And
Mm.
when you can start blending those two movements in together, the contact becomes, or the low point control of the arc becomes pretty good, and you have minimal turf interaction.
It's that repetitive motion of finding that low point, which comes with a lot of practice on grain, a good sound technique, and yeah, hours and hours of practice that you can't kind of go past that.
Yeah, yeah, and you can mess around with playing, like elevating the handle and playing a little more toe side and minimizing that turf contact, and just depending on how bad the lie is, but
Mm.
and what you got to do with the flight. But um, yeah, it's definitely a skill that I think unless you play on it a lot, it can cause some problems if you're not used to it.
Yeah, yeah, I guess that's why they call it the Texas wedge. You just get your putter out and whack it up on the green
Exactly.
and
Yeah,
go from there.
that's it. Yeah,
Uh,
100%. I mean,
Um,
yeah, and putting on it's even hard too, right? So.
Oh, just whack it. I kind of learnt that the hard way at Raw Pines last year. Had a good round going, and I had 3 attempts trying to get it up on the 18th green. There, I had my 5 wood out, whacked. Really good at that shot, and just the grain just unreal on that little
Yeah,
bank there. They've redone that green a
it
couple of.
is.
I
It
should.
is. Yeah.
It's nothing like any other of the greens. I should literally just whack my chip up there and take your 5 and get on with it. You missed the green. Take your medicine.
Oh,
Yeah, had my tin cup moment, so I can kind of get that out of the way myself. So yeah, moving on to putting
we all
next
have
time.
them.
We all have them. Own it. I'll try get better at
Yeah.
that 5 wood shot, but in the meantime, I'll probably just whack my putter up there and go from there. But
Good on
yeah,
you.
putting on grain. Anything different? It probably just affects the read. Is it something you're seeing on that?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, grain flows with slope, right? So
Mm,
I'm an aim point instructor,
mhm,
and we see for the most part, there is the rare occurrence where it doesn't happen, depending on how broad the leaf is. But for the most part, grain flows with slope. So if you can feel where your slope is, you can somewhat then understand what way the grain is moving. So if I've got a right to left sloping putt, the grain's also going to be moving right to left as well, which is just going to make the putt play faster.
mm,
So you're going to have to play a little more break than what needs be. And then obviously your uphill putts are going to be into the grains. They're going to be terribly slow, and your downhill putts are going to be really quick because they're down grain. So
mm,
for the most part, you'll see that, especially in Queensland, the grain grows with the slope.
mm.
So that's ultimately how I read it, and then it's just how aggressive that grain is, really.
Yeah, it's something it just like that's as simply as I see it as well. I do a little bit of aim point. Well, I've done a lot of aim point over the years, and I understand a lot of that stuff and how important that read is for sure. But going back to putting setup, is it something you add more loft in? A lot of people talk about that in Asia. Are you looking to go 3 to 7 degrees? Some people add a lot of loft on their putters, or is it just more of a get the read right and get the pace right?
I've never been one to mess around with the putter too much, to be honest, mate. So I do know guys do um, put a bit more loft on if they feel if the grain is that bad. Um, you can do a little bit through ball position too. You
Mm,
move your ball position forward a little, increase your rise angle a touch.
mhm,
Um, but yeah, I mean, for the most part, I think it's more probably about getting the read right, understanding what it's doing, and adapting to the green reading process. And
mm,
um, you know, if you play your normal 3 or 4 degrees of loft on your putter, or 2 degrees, depending on who you are, like, yeah, you might have a little bit more skid. The ball might sit down in the grain a little more. But I think if I was a player, I'd probably invest more time in the adapting to the green reading process and the speed elements before probably messing with the loft. I think that would be like the third part of the puzzle if you're really struggling with it.
mm. How important do you see aim point as a tool for players? Do you think everyone should be doing it? Is it just imperative? What's that?
No, I don't think everyone should do it.
Mm,
I definitely see it as a really beneficial skill. Whether you use it all the time, or just learning it, I think is a great tool to have. It just opens up your awareness to being able to. I think your feel is really intuitive. So when you stand on a slope, if you actually engage in what you're feeling, you can. It's a lot more obvious than what you really recognize it is. And a lot of the time, visually, what we see, whether you have a little bit of parallax error through your eyesight or whatever it may be, it can really mess with what your read does. The amount of times you hear players go, "Oh, it broke uphill." Well, like the ball's not going to move uphill. So we know that doesn't happen. So that was just clearly a misread. So um, whereas you don't tend to get that when you read with aim point, because you're using more of your feel-based sensory sort of feedback through your feet. The hardest thing with aim point, which I see with players, is being able to commit to training it well enough to whereby they can actually decipher the difference between, for example, 1% slope or 3% slope, whatever it may be. That takes time, but that's like any other skill we learn,
mm,
whether it be a swing technique or chipping technique, whatever it is. You just have to train it, and
mm,
there's tools out there, through the levels, and you can use to train. But yeah, I think it's something that players should learn. Whether they decide to use it or not, that's ball in their court. But I see it as a really beneficial skill.
And that calibration's huge. That's one thing I've taken out of it. You can have the read, but if your feet aren't telling you what it actually is, you're obviously at the point now where we can feel that my left foot's lower than my right. It's going right to left. We know that how much is kind of an everyday practice type of thing, and you can get quite efficient at it. It doesn't take any longer than a normal read at all.
I would say it's faster. I read a putt. I say I can read a putt within 6 seconds. It was about as long as it takes to read. And if I misread it via aim point, it's never too far away. Like you might at worst be 1% off with the read. So therefore you're going to, and typically I would find I normally, if I misread now, it would be normally an overread versus an underread. So I'm at least getting the ball up on the high side, and if I'm hitting it at the right pace, I'm giving it a red hot chance of going in. Whereas I always felt like pre-aim point, I'd probably tendency to be underread, hit the ball a little hard, make the cup a little smaller, open up sort of those three putt problems where your ball rolls 5-6 feet past, and you get into that zone of you're not going to make all of those.
It's funny actually with that you subconsciously already kind of know where the read is, if you're really in tune with all that stuff. Whether you start the putt on line or not is a huge part. I think just getting the ball rolling over where you're aiming is huge as well. Once you get the perfect read, then there's no doubt in whether it rolled too far or, I got the wrong read. I think yeah, that's huge as well.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more.
Yeah. So yeah, string lines, all that stuff's vital with aim point. It's just, it all complements each other. You can't add enough tools and resources into your golf toolbox, I think they call it. They call it. Segueing into the perfect golf body. What's that look for you, and how are you instilling that in your players?
Perfect golf body. I don't know if there is one, but I think there's ultimately, the trend is, well, not trend, excuse me, just being a good athlete, being able to have great mobility through range of motion, but being supported with great stabilization as well. So being strong in the right in the correct areas of the body, and having great range of motion. So if we can blend those two together, then the ability to create speed, injury prevention, staying available to play tournaments. I always say, like, the biggest asset any athlete can have is availability. As soon as they're unhealthy or they're injured, they're not earning money and they're not playing golf tournaments. So keeping the athletes healthy through being strong yet mobile is what you're really looking for. So we've using the trainers that we have on site, obviously setting their programs up so they have great programs in the gym, but also then recovery sessions post tournament or post workouts as well. So, and then coupling that, I guess, probably is the nutritional aspect as well. So if you want to grow your body to a certain level, then you're going to have to fuel it the right way as well. So getting the correct nutrition in. So that blend of nutrition, mobility, stability, and then working on dynamic balance, being fast. Yeah, being able, just being athletic.
Athletic, fast, speed. That's kind of where the game's trending. We see Bryson now breaking literally the speed barrier. What are you thinking it's going to go with golf? Is it going to be 120 mile an hour is going to be the standard 330 yard drive? Is that the new norm?
I think so. Yeah, I do think that's the case. I think 120 maybe pushing it, but I think you're going to see like tour average numbers up there. I think like about 3 or 4 years ago, I think tour average driver speed was around 113. It's probably now closer to 116, 117. And frequently you're seeing guys up in the 120s. So I think you're definitely going to see within the next couple of years, tour average club head speed drive is going to be something like 118.
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, I think the players typically are getting stronger, moving better, technology's getting better, so they're just going to keep hitting it further, which is, I don't have a problem with it, to be honest. I think
Mm.
you still got to have the finesse around the greens. You still got to get it done. As you saw at the Masters, it doesn't matter. I think with Bernhard Langer and playing with Bryson, two
Mhm.
completely different ends of the spectrum. So you still got to have the stuff around the greens to get the ball in the hole and get it done. And if you can couple that up with a great power game and great accuracy into the greens, that's the best of both worlds.
You see DJ, he pretty much hit every fairway those last on the weekend, and that
Yeah,
tee to green, putted pretty good, and wins by a landslide. That's kind of it definitely is an asset if you can hit it long and straight. There's no arguing that for sure. But
100%. Yeah.
yeah, it's
And credit to them, right? They work hard. They work hard to be able to hit it that far too, right? Like
mm,
you don't get strong just by waking up and going to the gym once a week. It's a long committed process to get the body to be able to move that fast. And if that's what the player is willing to invest in, then all power to them. I think that's a great commitment to be able to do that.
I'm on the lookout for just college football players. If they
Yeah,
get to 22, they don't get drafted, they play in a practice squad for a while and say, well, this isn't for me, I'm just going to play golf. If you give them, well, I see if you give them 2-3 years of sound technique, they've already got all their freak athletes. They're literally going to
yeah,
hit the ground running at 25, 26. We could see this new wave of golfers coming through because you see a couple of them play socially and you think,
I
geez, if
know,
he
right?
if he can just hit that thing straight, and he's obviously a huge, because they're crazy competitors.
Absolutely.
I guess you're looking forward to a few of those guys rolling into the studio.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, I mean, anytime you get a great athlete in front of you, they're great fun to work with. I've been lucky enough to work with a bunch of different athletes from different sports, and what they can do, or their ability to take on information and apply it. How quickly they can apply it is crazy, just through
Mm.
just great biomechanics of what they've done in their other sports. So yeah, I agree that crossover, and you see it with kids too, right? Like the more sports they play, they're so much more coachable from a golf point of view. So versus
Mm.
being just brought up solely just with golf. So and that's something that we preach. There's, like I said, like build the athlete before the golfer,
Mm.
and if you can get them moving well and get them strong and fast at a young age, those little speed windows are developed early and they stay with them for a lifetime.
Yeah, big believer of that. One of my friends, Ryan Smith, he
Mhm.
played state footy as he was playing golf, kind of trying to do both. Stopped playing golf, just played socially. Got really beefy, strong, and last time I got on a track, man, it was 135 miles an hour, and I was like, there's no driver stiff enough for you right now, and you can putt and chip. I'm thinking, well, like, where are those athletes? Like when they come through, it's
Uh,
going to be ridiculous.
135 is crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I guess Timmy. I've seen Timmy's numbers a couple of times. He can push the boundaries there, but
They ain't getting the 130 though. That's next level. Yeah.
yeah, I seen it. The sound on it, it literally sounded like the driver was caving its head in.
Yeah.
But yeah, crazy times ahead. But yeah, looking forward to it. Golf Australia, best play you've seen since being around the program, and why?
Wow. Well, Cameron Smith, really.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess when I very first started working with Golf Queensland, he was in squads. And why? I mean, you just look at what he's done. I mean, he's gone next level.
Mm.
There's certain great players right now. And Jed Morgan, obviously, current Australian champion. He's an incredibly talented athlete. There's Elvis Smiley, who's doing great things at the moment as well. And I think if you look at those, why are they doing so well? I think it is that combination of that of course they're technically sound, but they're just great competitors, and they're really invested in and just doing the small things really well. They know their own games. They don't try to be anybody else. So, and I think that's, and Grant would say that about Cam. I'm sure that he's very comfortable in the way he plays golf, and he's not trying to be DJ. He's not trying to. He just knows his game, and he knows how to score from his point of view. And they be the best versions of themselves.
Yeah, best version of themselves. Own what they do. Be a good competitor. Athlete first. All that stuff resonates.
Yeah, and being accountable to their own. To what makes them good too, right? So being able to make the improvements where they feel necessary.
Well, not afraid to look in the mirror and really just be like, well, this is why this hasn't happened and I need to move forward with this. That's huge.
Yeah, 100%.
Few pet peeves as a coach. I'm sure we'll try, if it's too bad, I'll have to edit it out, but any pet peeves as a coach so far?
No, I don't really have any pet peeve. I mean, coaching offers up challenges on a daily basis, right? Everybody's different, and nothing really annoys me. I guess that the pet peeve would probably be the perception, oh, I'll come for a golf lesson, I'm going to walk away from the golf lesson and be better. So I think that would be, sometimes amateurs look at it that way. So I think the way I try to describe it is, I'll give you the tools to go and get better. You now got to go do the work to do that. So I'm a bit of a believer. I try to lead by example with most of the players I work with. So I won't ever ask anything of them to do that I wouldn't be prepared to do myself. So my pet peeve would be whereby the expectation is high, but the work ethic or the effort to get the result is low. So if you're going to complain about a result, but the work ethic in the background or the investment in the development in the background isn't to the same level, then don't complain.
How it's interesting that it's just the quick tip, the quick fix, all these band-aid remedies we sometimes see on television, and the amateur or any person coming in think it may be easier because it's been portrayed that way. It's not. It's a long journey. This is a thing that you need to just stick out and just keep working at every day. It's not just put a band-aid on it. Richard said I could do this. I'm going to go out there. I'm not going to miss a shot. You're going to have to put a lot of hours behind this over a set period of time, and then you might start to understand what's going on.
Yeah, and then you might hit 30% of your shots. Okay, I mean, like it's golf's a game, and it's not perfect. It's not a perfect game either. So just being able, being able to refine your craft, getting players to invest time in the right areas is probably the biggest challenge.
And it's always a work in progress. That's
100%.
Always a work beast. It's a moving beast. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for your time, Richard. We'll go into the one question. You can ask me anything you like. Anything is on the table.
Anything. Okay. How about if you could have your career all over again, rewind it back to when you first turned pro, would you approach your training, development the same? Would you do anything different from your point of view from when you turned pro to where you are now?
I would definitely do a lot of things different, and you kind of got the luxury of looking back on that now, especially in lockdown, kind of really think, well, I should have done that, should this and that. I think everything outside of golf, when you turn professional, it is very difficult to maintain, whether that's your taxes, relationships with friends, just monitoring whether you're going to study outside of golf, putting other sets of things into place so you're ready outside. I think everything outside of golf needs to be to the tip-top place where it needs to be before you turn professional, because once you go overseas, you start traveling, those things can pile up. They're a lot harder to maintain overseas. And, we're kind of seeing this through Zoom and everything, businesses, that adjustment period, there's no physical, tangible, you can't be there and do it. in person. I think that's one thing I learned. I would have loved to get everything a lot more organized, a real set, more of a set plan of how I was gonna, learn this beast as a professional, athlete. I think
Mm,
that's one thing I always look back on and go, whether I was ready golf wise, I definitely thought I was pretty ready to turn professional. I think a lot of
yeah.
things outside of golf, I wasn't quite sure where that was going to look like, where I was going to live, where I was going to practice, how I was going to implement my um, golf progression. I think that's huge. Just really have a plan on how you're going to do that um, outside of your hometown. I think, being from Perth, you've always had to travel. That's a thing. Um,
Mm.
just I think just getting all that stuff into place and set up before you turn professional is huge.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, great. Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree with that more. Like, and just I guess that's being patient, isn't it? And surrounding yourself with some good people to get some sound advice and being able to make those decisions before you turn pro. I guess.
Yeah, I think for me, I think a lot of people sign with a management company when you're number one amateur or you're a high ranking player.
Mm.
And I think just getting a better understanding of what that actually looks like and everything entailed with that is huge as well. Now 30, I learned a lot over those years, kind of what is and what that means, what
Sure.
contractually or that even seems like. Yeah, and I think just as a person, you grow so much through that. I don't think I was ready for that at 23. If I could do it again, probably I would have liked to play the Eisenhower, so I could have played
Yeah.
that when I was 24, and then turned pro after that, just to have that another year to kind of
Mm.
mature in my own feet. But if I did that, I would have missed out on the US Open, a couple of PGA Tour events. So you kind of look at the flip side of that.
Yeah. Can't regret that. Yeah.
No, throw me in the deep end. I'll learn from everything now, and when I get the opportunity again, I'll be better for it. That's
Good man.
so, yeah. So that's how I kind of see it. You
Yeah.
can, if you could
Love
take
it.
it back, you do that, but you think you miss out on those opportunities, and
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
I,
interesting. Yeah, that's good.
yeah, I definitely was thrown in the deep end. I didn't drown, but I was pretty close to, and I got out in the end, and I'm back in Australia, ready to hit the ground running in January. But yeah, that's my story so far.
No, it's great, and it's cool to see what you're doing with the podcast too, mate. I think that it opens up so many discussions around those things as well, and the more I think the more you can share that message, the better. And I'm sure a lot of the young players will listen to your podcast and look up to what you're doing. And um, yeah, I guess from a coaching point of view, it's been great to see what you've been doing with this podcast, and it opens up some really interesting discussions.
Yeah, appreciate the kind words, Richard. That's very kind of you. And yeah, I like talking to people. I'm interested in their story. I like talking about subjects that aren't the run of the mill. They're not just the standard when people
Mm.
are just in the spotlight. How was your day? How did it go? I want to talk about real
Yeah,
stuff that matters. That are lots of guests on here talk about mental health. I think that's huge. These
yeah,
tough conversations about what it means and looks like to be a professional athlete. I think that's huge and how we manage it all. So, yeah,
mm,
I appreciate the words, Richard, and I look forward to releasing more of these episodes and especially this one because I really feel like a lot of people will take a lot of value out of this. I think it'll kind of answer a few questions I've ever had for sure.
cool, mate. Absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, anytime, Richard. Cheers.